Welcome to Travel Again Presents, the weekly travel roundup covering the headwinds and tailwinds impacting the business of travel. Please welcome our hosts, Mike McCormick and Ed Silver. How you doing, Mike? Nice to see you.
How you doing, Ed?
Doing good. We're back quickly this time. Back again real soon. We had an episode just last week with two fantastic speakers. For our listeners, if you didn't catch that episode, that's a must listen. Go back and check that one out.
Absolutely.
All right.
Well, Ed, one thing I wanted to just put out there before we get started is that you and I have been a little busy this past week. Weeks leading up to this. We launched a new website for Travel Again.
Woohoo!
Yeah. So anybody that's ever done this before, you know, there's a lot that goes into the getting you there. And but for us, it was really trying to pull together all of our content, which now is readily available. Also all the history too, which is terrific to have it all kind of in one place. But it's also, you know, highlighting the other capabilities we have, both, you know, in terms of the things we do that you see in this podcast and our roadshow, et cetera, but also the advisory practice. That's really the foundation of what we've built, and a lot of work that we do with brands from around the industry on just helping them to perform better and adapt to, you know, all the changes of the marketplace, et cetera. So, you know, again, really proud of it. I think it's a great, you know, place. And if you're just literally wanting to go and look at our content, it's you know, again, all in one place, readily available and easy to access. So proud of it. A lot of, as like I said, a lot of work goes into it. So great job, and makes me glad every day that I'm partnered with somebody who's technically savvy as you are, because I never could have gotten there on my own. But it was, but it's great teamwork, and I love the output. It was really
a lot of fun. Great partners working on it with me, and I think it looks great. And you're right, it has everything we need, including our episodes, our podcasts, our videos, and the latest news. So check it out. All right, Mike. This is episode 7 of our rebooted podcast. We are making our way through the numbers now, Mike.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. And I'm ready to go if you are.
I'm ready to go. We have an amazing episode with a tremendously dynamic leader in the travel space. I cannot wait to bring her on. Okay, Mike, now for the news. Mike, I chose for the first article this week, Southwest Airlines is in the news. Elliott takes a big stake in Southwest Airlines. The activist has built a stake of nearly $2 billion in Southwest Airlines and plans to push for changes aimed at helping to fix the airline's underperformance. Mike, we were just at Southwest Airlines. What's your take on this?
Well, this one's really interesting, right? Because I have to say that it doesn't surprise me in a sense that there's, you know, some shareholder pressure and looking at better performance and, you know, looking at the, you know, the opportunities ahead for Southwest to, you know, basically take the business they've built and maybe make some changes. And even senior leadership alluded to that in the last earnings call. Our friends over at Cranky Flyer, in addition, also did analysis, went out this morning, I thought was really on point, but they were kind of getting to the bottom of what's driving Elliott's, you know, kind of mission here. And it comes down to a few things, as it usually does, all related to money, of course. But it's basically, you've got a business that the value of their planes and assets is basically at or exceeds their current market cap, combined with the fact that Southwest has low debt, like a lot of cash relatively. And so that makes them a target. And, you know, the hard part for me, and I'll just put it out there, is that I look at it like I look at their culture. We were just there. I mean, you know, they have a very strong culture that's been built on people working there, staying there, longevity, consistency, going back to the days of Herb Kelleher, right? But at the same time, I mean, the marketplace is always changing. You need to adapt. You need to infuse new ideas and people, et cetera. So there's a balance there. But I would hate to see this company gutted, in a sense, culturally and otherwise, you know, when you look at what Americans going through and how they're going to have to now reinvent themselves and find themselves again and rebuild, like, to put Southwest through that and have them come out the other side and not retain the culture that they have would just be really a shame, and a shame for competitiveness in the market space for airlines, for us and for us as consumers. Whether you fly Southwest or not, they're a force in driving service culture across the industry. And I think, again, it'll be one to watch. We got to watch and pay close attention to, but one that I have a lot of views on, and feel it's like I understand what's happening, but it is concerning, and it will be a shame if it ultimately wrecks the culture there.
Mike, there was actually a second investment company that also is thinking
Yeah.
about investing and trying to get Southwest to restructure. So it feels like the vultures might be circling here a bit. And odds on one of these happening, Mike. You a betting man? What do you think?
Well, look, it's going to force change. There's no question. Ultimately, will they be successful in their demands? I think that's hard. I mean, let's just say I hope not. I hope it doesn't result in that, in kind of all of their wish lists being fulfilled, because I think, again, that would not be good for for the industry. But we will see.
Okay. Mike, I went to Vegas and looked up the odds on this happening, and the odds makers have not put the line out yet, but we will keep a close eye on that.
Yes, we will.
All right. Article number 2. I couldn't help myself this week, Mike. Apple had their worldwide developer conference on Monday.
I had to leave you alone while you attended virtually attended the announcements and the unveiling. I know this is like you live for this. I'll let you have the floor.
I will happily take the floor. So Apple Siri is getting better, and there was some actual travel trip planning that was demoed during the WWDC keynote speech. And so overall, look, Apple is taking a second or third attack at this meeting. Apple rarely is first to the business. They're often second or third. They just come at it and do it significantly better than everybody else. They weren't the first out with an MP3 player. They just created the iPod, and it was fantastic. They weren't the first phone maker, but they came out with it, and the iPhone is obviously history. Here, I think they're taking a similar approach. They're not calling it AI. They never said the words AI in the entire keynote speech. They call it Apple Intelligence. And early reviews from what they showed, it looks very interesting. More to come as we see it, in demos and actually get to test it. The one interesting thing that they did show was not about trip planning, but more about journey management. So your iPhone knows an awful lot about you, your personal context. It knows your calendar. It knows your text messages. It knows the emails you received. And it showed a demo of that your mom had texted you that she's coming in on flight 1421 on United. And later she emails you that she wants to have lunch after she arrives. And so you ask Siri through Apple Intelligence, track my mom's flight. Will I have enough time to go to lunch? And it puts all of that context together and provides you the journey management around it. Very cool demo in terms of travel. I think there's a lot more to come. Always excited to see where Apple goes in the marketplace, Mike.
Well, my question I have for you is that, do you think when Steve Jobs named and Steve Wozniak named the company Apple back in the day, that they had the presence of mind to know that someday that beginning their name with A would be so critical to the Apple Intelligence AI positioning that someday they would need? I thought, that was I didn't even come attended. I was just thought that alone was brilliant. I was like,
no,
wow.
It was very smart, because actually, in many ways, AI has some negative connotations right now in the marketplace.
Mixed.
It's mixed in some ways, depending on who you talk to, between inaccurate results on Google, some hallucinations, some early, issues with it. The fact that it could take over the world and kill us all.
Rise of the machines.
Yeah. So Apple Intelligence is an interesting way to get around some of that negativity. And there is nobody better at it than Apple in terms of marketing. So we shall see where it all goes.
Now, if they could just get my phone battery life to extend, I'd be really happy. Did that come out? Did they talk about that at all? No.
No, I did not hear any of that, Mike.
Okay.
But hopefully we will get you a new phone soon. I know you're like 6 generations behind.
No, I'm not. Maybe a few.
Okay.
All right. Anyway, on to the next article.
On to the next article. Mike, the next article is about Chase and overall bank travel portals. The headline here was Chase Travel is growing as fast as Booking Holdings, but faces headwinds. Chase Travel grew sales last year at a pace on par with Booking Holdings and far ahead of Expedia Group. What is going on here, Mike?
Well, first off, sorry, Skift, no offense, but your headline is kind of bullshit. Let's just say it for what it is. To compare the growth rate of a Chase Travel, which is probably a tenth of the size. I think they even reference it at some point in the article of bookings, is hardly like an accurate comparison. So I know it catches the headlines and in the headline to get people to read. But having said that, in the article is some very interesting let's say, referencing some interesting topics here that are more important than that. One is that the reference about Chase Travel bringing Southwest into their booking path and full integration. That's the first of anything like that. It came in conjunction with Southwest now being in Google Flights, where they weren't before. It was just kind of schedule only. It wasn't you couldn't click or book. So that is actually a big change, but it's more about why, and the why being because Chase does their co-branded card with the Southwest co-branded card. So it built a relationship to a point where these bank relationships, Amex, Chase, Cap One, etc., Citi, are really growing and becoming a bigger and bigger competitive part of the marketplace. They may not all be at the size yet of certainly an Expedia or Bookings, but collectively that part of the piece of the market is in growth mode, right? And they're getting more and more competitive. They're leveraging their points and benefits. They have the partnerships with the various airlines. There's and hotels, et cetera, et cetera. There's a lot going on there, and that's going to continue to be a bigger growth part of the market. So that part, that's definitely something to pay attention to. The other thing is that we keep hearing these little tingling messaging about slowdown in growth. I think you got to put a little bit of perspective and just remember that we are at an all-time high again in terms of travel and travel bookings and everything. Now, it's different than 2019. The way it's come back and reconstituted is different makeup of domestic, international travel trends, et cetera, how people buy, book, all that has changed and changing, right, rapidly. But it isn't, and you can't sustain the levels of growth that we've had since the recovery. That's just not possible. So the slowdown is, I have to take that in context. I know it's all relative when the airlines are doing their numbers and their earnings, but you have to also step back and have the perspective of it's a really healthy travel market right now, generally. It just is. And even a slowdown is still good. But remember, just again, we're going to see now a period of kind of slow and steady growth, but the numbers are going to be small relative in percentage growth compared to what they were, which is going to force companies to be more in a share game, right? They're going to now, it's like, well, to keep growing at the pace I'm growing or outpace my competition, I've got to find ways to take share away from my competitors, because it won't be enough just to ride the wave of the normal growth. So it does change the marketplace, but generally that's good for consumers because it means companies are going to be competitive, and that's good. So again, good trends, interesting stuff, a lot in there, but again, all points it reinforces stuff we've been talking about and continue to talk about even since the early days of travel again.
Yep. Bank portals are taking on the OTAs in a big way here, Mike.
Yep. Yes, they are.
Okay, Mike. Thanks for that. Mike, we will be right back with our guest. Mike, today we have a new sponsor, Safe Travel RX.
We do.
This is an app that takes the worry off your itinerary, providing travel peace of mind with emergency response components, travel security, and risk management, especially for those traveling internationally. It includes 24/7 global concierge assistance. Landed in the hospital in China? Forgot your prescription? Wallet stolen? Safe Travel RX is your prescription for better, safer travel.
Yeah, so for me, I mean, I've been used this for years. It's a terrific product. It's best in class in the industry. That it is really, I would just say, worth it, worth it to have. I mean, hopefully, I'll never need it, but that's like that reassurance that you can be somewhere, have an issue, click and get immediate support, and have a trusted connection back to all the services you would need in a situation. Again, hopefully you never need it, but man, it's great to know that's there, not just for you, but also family members. For the office, a big duty of care issue. Companies are grappling with ways of how do they maintain a level of care and support for their travelers. Well, this is a terrific tool for doing that. For whether it's an HR department or a consumer offering, they want to offer benefit. An airline that wants to give their their customers, international customers, some support and recommend something. I mean, it's again a really nice product for the marketplace and very timely.
All right, thanks, Mike. Download it today to discover the power of Safe Travel RX and reach out to them if you have interest in offering this tool to your travelers to provide them with the duty of care you are required to provide. Safe Travel RX, your prescription for better travel. Okay, Mike, now on to our guest. Wow, I'm excited about this one. Please join me in welcoming Charlene Leiss, President, Flight Center Travel Group, the Americas. Charlene Leiss has been with Flight Center Travel Group since the acquisition of Garber's Travel Service by FCM Travel Solutions in 2007. She has held various leadership roles, most notably as President for Corporate Brands USA. Currently, she is the Managing Director for Flight Center Travel Group in the United States, overseeing the strategic direction for the Americas. For the record, Charlene and I worked together for a few years. She is one of the best leaders I have ever worked for. Please welcome to the stage, Charlene Leiss. Charlene, nice to see you.
Welcome.
It's great to see you. Thanks, Ed. Thanks, Mike. It's great to see both of you. I love this podcast, first of all. Let me just say, I feel like I'm kind of on new heights with the Kelsey brothers.
We style ourselves off of them. We're just not
A little
as good
bit,
looking
yeah.
as them. Yeah.
We're both big Eagles fans, so there's the connection.
Ed knows that I don't share that view, so I won't hold that against you, though.
Well, hey, before we get started, aside from the fact that you two work together, there's another connection actually with us with Flight Center that I wanted to bring out. Just that back when Ed and I were founders in Hudson Crossing, we actually were bidding as well on Liberty Travel, which was Flight Center's acquisition to get into the leisure market here in the States. And they made the Garber acquisition where you came in for corporate, right? And but we were going head to head with them to try to. We had private equity backing going after it, so I always feel this connection to Flight Center because they ended up outbidding us for it. But it was very. There are these little, always these in our industry, as you know, these kind of touch points and connections, and 1 degree of separation on so many things. But anyway.
Yeah, it's very true. Very true. It's a small industry. And, I forgot about the Hudson Crossing connection, but we've done a lot of work with Hudson Crossing over the years, too.
That's right.
They've consulted with us. They've helped us with other M&A and some of the tech transformation that we've done as a business. So it's a great group.
Well, good stuff. And so welcome to Travel Again. Welcome to the podcast. So along those lines, I mean, look, Flight Center globally has been a combination of acquisitions and both ones we know about, and also maybe other ones tech related, etc. Now it's a certainly global company. Maybe give us just a little update about where Flight Center is today. Kind of what's unique, what's your proposition, how do you differentiate? Yeah.
Yeah, so much unique, first of all, about our company. So Flight Center Travel Group is a global travel business that is really a portfolio company. So we
Right.
have a portfolio of brands across corporate, leisure, supply, and also some niche parts of the travel business. And we're one of the top five globally, which has certainly been helped by some of the consolidation, but we've been a pretty large player for a number of years. Headquartered in Brisbane, we're publicly held, so traded on the Australia Stock Exchange. And our CEO and founder, we've got a founder CEO by the name of Graham Turner, who we call Screw. He runs the company. And the company is unique in so many ways because of our culture. Really, it comes down to the culture of the business, the people that lead, our ability to really make sure that even though we're a very large business with the opportunity to invest and obviously have quite a number of different brands and disciplines that we operate, but we still feel like a small company. And I know others might say that, but I think it's really true here. We've got a whole family, village, community mentality. Books have been written about our structure and about how, we work hard, play hard, celebrate success. We have ownership and accountability in every part of the business. So it's a really different place. And I can say that because, coming from Garber Travel, which you mentioned earlier in the intro, family-owned business, largely New England, but a few international locations too. I really didn't think that I would transition to a big global company based in Australia. I mean, I thought that was probably the end of the line for me until I read the book, drank the Kool-Aid, and decided I better stick around and find out what's going on here, because this sounds like something I could definitely get into. It felt like, the culture we had in Garber, but on a global basis. And it really has been. It's been quite a journey. It's just, it's amazing to see where Flight Center goes.
So Flight Center now, you said, top five is in the midst of, you've got now Amex CWT combining, BCD's out there, Navan maybe going public, still maybe going public next spring. Direct Travel, Spotnana, Steve Singh's Perfect Trip. You've got all, it's kind of gearing up to be a battle of titans here. How does Flight Center win in that environment?
Yeah, there's a lot happening, like you said. And, you mentioned corporate. So that's as far as the corporate side of our business is concerned, which is about 50% of what we do globally. So it's quite sizable. We're in a great place. We've always been a bit of a challenger brand, especially in this market, because this is the last frontier for us, so we've only really been growing across the US for the past 25 or so years. So we're known as a challenger. We have this alternative mentality. We have a ton on the tech front, and now we own our own platforms and online booking tools. We've got a center of excellence for AI, which I know you're talking about as well. So we've got a lot happening there, but we also have that great combination of local service and expertise, and owning the customer relationship. So I think we're kind of the originals when it comes down to that. And the consolidation helps us because, there's some really big mergers going on, and that's going to be a lot of work to integrate. So it allows us to continue to grow and win market share. And in this market, we can win market share 20% year on year for eternity probably, and still only have a small piece of the pie. So it's a great opportunity.
Yeah, that's a good point too. And I think probably sometimes gets lost a little bit of like that the long tail of providers, but it did come out a lot going into the next topic, NDC, because when you look at what like Asta did to push back in America and what our whole industry did, it's nice to say, hey, we want everyone to do direct connect, we want everybody, but you only have a handful of players that have the resources to actually do that. Everyone else is completely reliant upon those thousands of other providers that represent the long tail distribution. It's not consolidated. It's not that simple. And even for major players, like what is your NDC strategy going forward? Because even despite Americans kind of pivot and all that, nothing's changed. I mean, it's still full speed ahead. So where do you guys come out on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, NDC is certainly the future of the industry, and there was so much that was antiquated about the technology. So, we certainly don't argue with that at all, and being able to display the airlines' products the way they'd like them and bundle and so forth. So we know that's the future. We're really lucky in this regard because we had actually made a strategic investment in TP Connects before the pandemic.
Right.
And they're an aggregator based in Dubai. We increased our investment over the past couple of years, so we are the majority shareholder and stakeholder in that business. So we've really got a great position when it comes to building direct connects and being able to access NDC content, both online and offline. That's not a concern for us because we've developed the technology and we've already rolled quite a bit of it out. It's more the commercials, right? The commercials and the relationship that we have with some of those suppliers that we want to make sure are mutually beneficial and our customers are looked after. You know, the customer experience is where it needs to be. But we're in a great position when it comes to the tech front, and we're expanding our direct connect capabilities with TP Connects really week on week. There's just a lot of growth there.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, do you see this more of like kind of like, you know, the 80-20, 90-10, where you're going to, you'll have a certain key relationships that may, due to commercials, due to, you know, just product and capabilities, that you ultimately have a certain amount of direct connect, but then the rest kind of using still traditional means?
Yes, I mean, we certainly want to be GDS first where we can because it just makes sense from a productivity right now, right? It makes sense from a productivity perspective, and making sure that we've got the bulk of the content in one place. But as we continue to evolve and, you know, the direct connects and the APIs improve, if we can service the customer better in that way with, like you said, some of the preferred suppliers, then we'll certainly do that. But GDS first is still our mentality.
Yeah, and I think still, and clearly, I mean, for varying reasons, right? I think, and it seems to be kind of held. One question though on that: do you see any difference in terms of what you do, corporate versus leisure, or is it kind of that same strategy across the whole?
No, we do. It is different because in leisure, we're not selling as much air only. You know, we're selling a lot more package business, cruises. We have a whole offline industry for our luxury brand, Scott Dunn, which we're growing quite a bit in this market. So it is different. And our leisure consultants aren't really just pumping out air bookings the way the corporate side of the business does.
Okay. Okay. Makes sense. All right. Well, Ed, I'll turn this part over to you because, you know, I mean, not that I'm not an AI expert, but I feel like maybe I'll defer on technology to you.
That sounds good. Charlene, people may not know that Flight Center was actually an early innovator in the chat space, you know, making a major investment in SAM and then eventually acquiring SAM, which is essentially machine learning and chatbot in the early days. I saw that you brought Adrian on, one of the founders of SAM, as your, you know, head of excellence for AI, and I've heard him speak a couple of times. Great guy. I mean, just a great choice. But tell us about, what do you think the future holds for AI and travel, and where are you applying AI across your business?
Yeah, I mean, to your point, we've been using AI and machine learning in a lot of our tools and platforms and apps for many years, and it's exciting, right? It's making us better. It's making us more efficient. It's making us more productive. You talked earlier about some of the trip services and some of the easy itinerary building that AI can work with to help our experts really just focus on the complex. And that's where we see it making us certainly a better company from a service perspective, from a development and engineering perspective, you know, taking some of the more mundane tasks and programming away from our experts so that they can focus on what's more high touch. And we have had that mentality. That's why whenever anybody says that we're legacy, I'm like, how could you say that we're legacy? We've been ahead of the curve in this area. And it's been really exciting to see the area grow. You know, Jomo, obviously, our chief experience officer who runs the corporate side of the business, has been very progressive in this space with bringing different opportunities to us, with trying different technology and so forth. We also acquired Shep, as you know, which allows us to provide the FCM extension and do a lot more custom work and AI work with the online booking tools. So it's a big growing part of our business, as it is probably for most travel companies. And the investment in technology resources, in AI specialists and so forth, and all of the development needs is something that's growing probably at a quicker pace and a higher investment rate than a lot of other parts of the business.
Very interesting. You think Jomo will be jealous we had you on before him?
Oh, 1000%. Jomo has FOMO. He may say he doesn't, but he does.
All right, very good. Charlene, I had read at the beginning of the year You had a 2024 prediction which said, quote, "We will continue to see a shift in the way travel is approached." Can you
Yep.
elaborate on that prediction and maybe tell us, tell our listeners, where are we now? Has there been a shift in how people travel?
Yes, and Mike actually stole my thunder a little bit earlier in your commentary here because it's the travel patterns that have changed, the way people travel. It's traveling for a purpose versus, just taking ridiculous overnight flights to Asia and coming right back. It's sustainability playing into it. It's work-life balance playing into it. People are just being much more smart about the way they travel, being more efficient on trips and getting, multiple things done, visiting with customers, internal travel, etc. So it's really the patterns that have changed. For all of the businesses that still work hybrid workforces, getting their teams together, we see a lot more of that continuing. Quarterly incentive trips, quarterly team building and bonding trips. That's a much bigger part, and I think it will continue to be, of what we're doing on the corporate side of things. Where leisure, initially, when we first came out of the pandemic, everybody wanted to do flop and drop Mexico, Caribbean, and just get out of the home state. Now we're seeing people doing a lot more on the adventure travel, European travel, African safari, doing a lot more long haul. So I think that the patterns are changing, but the need to get out and be face to face and have experiences, whether it's corporate or leisure, has never been stronger. And to your comments earlier, again, about the state and the health of the industry and the travel market, we have no concerns where that is concerned. I mean, if this pandemic proved nothing else, it is that there will always be a human need to get face to face, with individuals across every market. And so we're excited about it. And it's just an evolution, the journey that we're all on.
All right. Mike, I'll give you the final closing. Oh, you're on mute, Mike.
Yeah, so I guess like at the end of the day, right? It's like you kind of almost answered that the closing comment question, maybe in a way, maybe you have a different answer too. But because when you look ahead into the future, we always talk about change and what's changing, everything else. But the reality is, what can you name something that you won't see changing? What's always going to remain the same?
Yeah, I think in our business, the travel industry, right, the need for customer service, however that is delivered. And it's certainly, we can do a lot of customer service delivery using online, using chatbots, using AI. Like the way we deliver customer service might change. The need to have that 24/7 support, that expert on the other end of whatever it is to make sure that we help when there's disruption, that's never going to change. And I think that as an industry, we used to debate back in this industry, I don't know how long ago, 10, 15 years ago, maybe more, about whether travel was a commodity and you could treat it like a widget, and have online auctions to bid for travel programs. And I really think we've proven that travel will never be a commodity. It's experiential. And even in the corporate side, it's about delivering amazing travel experiences for the customer on the other end.
Yeah.
And that will never change. That's our business.
Couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more.
That is awesome. Thank you so much, Charlene, for coming on the podcast. Charlene Leiss is president, Flight Center Travel Group, the Americas. Thank you again, Charlene.
Anytime, guys. Thanks much. And good luck with the new website. I'm going to go check it out.
Thank you.
Charlene. All right, Mike. We will be right back with headwinds and tailwinds.
So I just want to take a minute and talk about our other sponsor today, BLS. We've talked about BLS a number of times, throughout, certainly all of our episodes here. They've been a terrific supporter. But, we talk about as a company, they provide terrific black car services, everything from, single driver, single car, up through buses, vans, every part of the industry they manage and are a true global player. But they're also a great family company. And we were talking a little bit about, Southwest and culture, but the same thing with BLS and culture in their own world. It's really great when you work with companies that have that level of, just understanding, and it radiates through the people they hire and the service they provide. So again, always recommend BLS. If you have any kind of ground transportation needs, give them a call first. They're a terrific company. So.
Okay, thanks, Mike. And now we will wrap with headwinds and tailwinds. We will identify what we think is adding value to travel or taking it away. Mike, you're up first today with tailwinds.
Yeah, so this is like a interesting one in that somebody that they actually wrote about this in Business Insider. It was a really good article. It's something I've been saying. I would say a lot more privately than publicly. There's a reason for that. When you say things like, people are like, oh, I can't believe that airfare costs that much, or they'll complain about the cost of airfare. And I always shake my head because I do have the perspective, having worked in the industry, to tell you that you are paying what people have paid for airfare, like literally going back 30, 40 years. I mean, there's without even adjusting for inflation. I mean, we're still paying and can get, inexpensive airfares. And you're talking about times you could spend more taking a family of four out to dinner than it would cost you for airfare. Like, I kind of, to put it in context of kind of like going like, you have to kind of like put it in perspective that you're talking about. You want safety, you want security, you want service, you want all this capabilities, airports, the planes, the experience, getting there, doing all things that they do. And, it's like, oh, I had to pay, $300 or $400. It's like, really? That's a problem. I mean, and what we're also finding too, some of the kind of like the issues now are not even so much, it's not even the cost of flying there, it's the everyday costs that are mounting up for people that are causing some of the economic kind of like potential slowdown, because the daily cost of just, groceries and living is escalated so much. And, honestly, airfares haven't relatively. So again, I always try to put in perspective. We talk about the resiliency of the industry. I think of this as kind of a tailwind because, in a sense, there's still a lot of value in flying, tremendous value. And it is, we are blessed with a lot of terrific service, despite the issues and complaints. And we should never stop trying to do it better and put pressure back on the industry to be, responsible for its, travelers and for its product and everything else. But, I think put it in perspective, again, there's still a lot of good value out there traveling. And if you're traveling internationally, although, again, that's been recovering too, man, there's still a lot of value in even trying to go places because, demand hasn't fully come back internationally, for example. And here, you can still get really good value traveling, for an airfare to go to places and destinations you've never been to before. So again, good stuff for the industry. The backbone of all of this is air travel, and it's still overall a relatively very healthy industry. So
yeah, Mike, Business Insider agrees and says we're actually living in, quote, the golden age of cheap flights.
Yeah, but so put it in perspective. I know we always like to save money and spend less, but sometimes, man, it's like you got to have a little bit of perspective. It's good for the industry.
All right, Mike, I've got the headwind today. And unfortunately, we're back again talking about potential strikes. Alaska Airlines flight attendants give the carrier 2 weeks to reach contract deal or face a potential strike. We talked about American Airlines flight attendants last week potentially going on strike. Here we have Alaska Airlines potentially going on strike. Overall, strikes are bad, for the industry. I know the union is working hard. I know we, know the head of the union, very well, and she does a, fantastic job. But just in general, strikes like this slow travel down. They make travelers concerned, and overall, remove confidence in people's, instinct in travel. And so, one to watch in terms of a headwind, and we'll keep a close eye on it.
Yeah, and hopefully they'll find resolution. I mean, these are all cyclical things. As contracts expire and come up for negotiation, they hinge off of what are the pilots getting, what are the mechanics. It's all tied together in terms of everybody getting their fair share of the cost of living increases, making sure they have good protections around workplace environment, et cetera. So there's always a lot at stake. It's always about the money, of course, but there's also a lot more at stake, particularly when talking about flight attendants who are, man, a godsend given what they have to deal with on
working hard they are.
It's a hard job, and the ones that do it well and also also bring a level of service to that job. Good for, man, again, great, a key part of the experience for travel.
All right, Mike, thank you. And that is our show today. Thanks again to our sponsors, BLS, and our new sponsor, Safe Travel RX. Mike, we will see you back here next week. We have another interview planned next week, and the hits keep on rolling.
It's a busy summer.
It's a busy summer. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next week.